All right, let's talk about prompt engineering. If you think it's still about finding the right magic words to get a chatbot to cooperate, well, think again. The game has totally changed. We're not just crafting words anymore, we're architecting minds.
And this quote right here, it just nails the huge shift we're seeing. The prompt is dead, the specification lives. What does that even mean? It means we've graduated from just giving simple instructions. Now it's all about creating these detailed, comprehensive blueprints that an AI can actually run with.
So, yeah, the whole chatbot era, it's pretty much over. That idea of trying to coax a specific personality out of a text generator, that's ancient history in AI terms. We've moved way beyond that. The real action now is in orchestrating these autonomous AI processes that can handle really complex stuff all on their own. Okay, check this out, because this really puts it all into perspective. With these gigantic 1 million token context windows we have now, your actual prompt, the words you type, it's like a drop in the ocean. Look at that, 0.02%. The real power, the real leverage, isn't in that tiny little prompt. It's in engineering the other 99.98%, all that context you feed the agent.
So, if the prompt itself is just a tiny piece of the puzzle, what's the rest of it? Well, what's replaced it is a complete framework, breaking the whole thing down into 4 new disciplines.
And it's structured kind of like a pyramid, building from the bottom up. At the very base, you've got prompt craft. On top of that, context engineering. Then, intent engineering, and right at the peak, specification engineering. The key thing to remember is that each layer enables the one above it. You can't just jump to the top. You gotta build that foundation. All right, let's start breaking this down. We'll start at the bottom with prompt craft, and then get into where the first real jump in power happens, context engineering. Okay, prompt craft. This is what pretty much everyone thinks of when they hear prompt engineering. It's the skill of just writing clear, direct instructions. And don't get me wrong, it's absolutely essential. But in 2026, it's the bare minimum. It's like touch typing. You have to know how to do it, but it's not going to give you a competitive edge anymore. Now, this next layer, context engineering, this is where things get really interesting. This is where the 10x multiplier comes in. It's a total shift in thinking. It's not about what you ask the AI, it's all about what the AI already knows before you even ask the question. It's the art of feeding it all the right information it needs to actually solve a problem. Let's make this real with a concrete example. Imagine an autonomous AI agent whose whole job is to audit legal contracts. We're not talking about a simple chatbot that can read a PDF. This is a specialized system designed for a super important, high-stakes task. So how does it work? Well, the agent goes through the contract, clause by clause, and for each one, it cross-references it against something called a risk playbook. You can think of this playbook as the company's rulebook. Store it in what's called a vector store, which is basically a super-fast, intelligent database. This lets the AI instantly find the exact company policy that applies to any weird legal clause it finds. And that risk playbook, that is the context. That's context engineering in a nutshell. It's that critical piece of information that transforms a general purpose language model into an expert legal contract auditor. It's what gives it superpowers. Okay, so we've given the agent the knowledge. Now let's move up the pyramid to the strategy layer. This is where we start talking about action, goals, and intent. And this is a really important distinction to grasp. If context engineering is about telling the agent what it needs to know, intent engineering is about telling the agent what it should want. It's about encoding its goals, its motivations, its decision-making framework. To really get a handle on intent, let's look at another cool example. This time, it's an AI agent built with a framework called LangGraph, and its job is to handle all the incoming emails for a company. So this agent is smart. It's not just following a simple script. It's using what's called a stateful cyclic graph. Stateful just means it remembers what it's doing. Cyclic means it can go in loops, check things, and make decisions. For example, it checks if an email is a regulatory notice. If it is, it does one thing, like flag it for a human. If it's not, it does something else, like forward it to the right department. That complex logic, that is its intent. So you see, intent engineering is all about encoding the agent's purpose. You're literally programming its goals and its decision-making framework so it can run on its own, reliably, without you having to look over its shoulder every 5 seconds. All right, now we're at the very peak of the pyramid, specification engineering. This is the highest level we can go. This is where we stop giving instructions and start writing actual programs, complete blueprints that autonomous agents can just pick up and execute on their own for long periods. And a perfect example of this in action is a framework called DSP. The whole idea behind DSP is to stop prompting language models and start programming them. It's a total paradigm shift. So how does it work? Well, instead of spending hours trying to craft the perfect prompt by hand, you do something different. You define your goal, what the input and output should look like. Then you define the basic reasoning steps. And then, and this is the magic part, an optimizer automatically figures out the best possible prompt to achieve that goal. You're basically telling it what you want, not how to say it.
And that right there is specification engineering. It's moving away from crafting words and moving towards a true engineering discipline. It's structured, it's robust, and it creates AI systems that are self-optimizing. You're building things that don't just work, they get better on their own. So let's zoom out. What does this all mean for the people actually doing this work in 2026? Well, it means the job has completely changed. Just a few years ago, in 2023, the role was prompt crafter. The main skill was knowing a few prompting tricks. But today, in 2026, the role is cognitive architect, and the core skills, they're context and intent engineering. The tech has moved from simple chains to these advanced agentic loops and frameworks like DSP. So if there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this. The future is not about being a prompt whisperer. It's about being an agentic orchestrator. You're not talking to the AI. You're building and directing entire systems of AIs. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. The future isn't just a better chatbot. It's an entire, invisible digital workforce that we're building right now. So the real question is, how are you going to orchestrate yours?